and welcome back to the video. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the NCAA Women's Basketball Division 1, who I think is going to win that conference bids. I did one on Saturday for some of the conferences, but I figured I'm going to do one video and just, depending on how long the video is, and just do straight through all the conferences. All 32 of them, who I think is going to automatic bid. Here we go. So it depends on how the East does with the East and West split. Because some do it like where they play like the one seed in the East plays like so the lower seed in the West, the seed in the West. And so they try to do East-West matchups. But FGC beat everyone in the conference. And they've only lost one time in the regular season, which is pretty big. Liberty's lost twice, once to FGCU, and they've pretty much once in like a really tough non-conference opponent. But they've steamrolled the ASUN. Alright, so I think it's gonna be I think FGCU, if they can beat Liberty again, that'd be huge. And I think both teams are gonna face each other in a conference. Either it's the best from the East plays the best in the West. That's how they do it, or something like that. Or somehow they'll meet in the conference tournament, I believe, unless an upset happens. And then otherwise it's gonna be FGCU Liberty. I don't know for the third time. I believe they play twice in the regular season, so because they're in the same division, so if they meet again in the conference tournament, it's gonna be a battle between those two. If not, one gets upset, then I think it would just be whoever left up GC or Liberty. America East, I would say Stony but Stony did not is moving on to another conference, and they are not allowed to compete in the America East Conference tournament, which derails their chances at the NCAAs. I mean, they will get an NIT berth, but I just think that's kind of wrong. They should get an NCAA bid, honestly. And they should. And maybe have a chance at upset, but it's not going to happen, as Albany is going to be the favorite now. Albany is going to win the conference. It should either be Albany, maybe Vermont, and maybe Maine. Otherwise, I don't really see any other team winning the conference tournament. And then the American Athletic, I don't see USF winning. I mean, USF lost to UCF. And maybe South Florida wins the conference tournament. I just don't see it. You know, I don't know how. I mean, South Florida's been a little rated. I mean, they lost to UT Arlington on the Sun Belt. So, I mean, that just kind of shows you. I mean, yeah, their competition is tough, but I mean, yeah, they could go in and upset someone, but I just don't see them going past like this round of 32. Maybe somehow they find a round of 32 points up, and maybe a Sweet 16, but that's pushing it. In the Atlantic 10, it's either going to be Dane, Rhode Island. I don't know if Dane and Rhode Island are going to meet in the regular season, but if they don't, then it's going to be, if they meet in the conference champion in the tournament, I see them either, I think, right now it's just going to be Dane and Rhode Island, because they might face each other in the regular season, but they might not. And if they don't, and then they're just going to meet in the conference tournament. And the matchup between them two is probably going to determine the whole thing. So, and then the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC. It's tough because these power conferences are really tough. They said, but I'm at qualifier. Because you could have someone say, for example, you could have Georgia Tech win the whole thing. Or maybe not Georgia Tech, but you could have, say, like someone like Virginia unranked, and they're 10-3. But then you could also have someone like Duke who was really ranked, or Boston College who was pretty good. Now they're slipping after a while, so. I mean, you can also have someone like Louisville win this whole thing, but you can also have NC State win this whole thing. Or Olivia Miles and Notre Dame win this whole thing, when her Notre Dame squad win it. Like, you've got so many top teams in these leagues. Like, it's hard to pick. You got, like, Lissa Kunane. You got Haley Van Lith. You got Olivia Miles, Sonia Citron, and Dara Mabry playing for Notre Dame. You got Virginia Tech's squad. You got Georgia Tech. You got UNC. You got Florida State. I mean, you just got like a stacked league. You got like Duke. You got Coach Lawson for Duke. I mean, you just got all these like really good teams like playing in there in the league. I mean, even the bottom feeders, like they're still good, Like I seen the game against Wake Forest and Clemson too. Wake Forest played really well. I mean, just Clemson played really well. It just that Wake Forest came back at the end, was just too low, too late. I mean, so and even the bottom feeders are pretty good, except for UVA, Virginia. I mean, I don't know. I mean, so. I mean, here we got the Big 12. The Big 12 is really wide open, I think. The Big 12 is because it's sometimes this conference so stuns me because Kansas State, how did they lost by like 30 or 40 points one game? Yeah. And they were ranked at one time. Like, how does that work? Like, Iowa State could win, but I don't know. I feel like Baylor could win, but I also feel like Oklahoma could win, but I also feel like Iowa State could win. But I don't know. I just have a feeling that Baylor has the best chance to win because Nikki Khan knows the WNBA. She knows how to will her team. Like, they're playing like back to back to back games, and she knows like how to will her team. Like when they play the same two teams in a row, or I should say the same team twice in a row. She knows that mentality of playing every day, every other day, from coaching the bubble in the WNBA, and she knows like how to will that will that in a team, use that same mentality that they use in the WNBA and translate over to college, which I think it can work, especially when you got like a lot of young stars on there. Baylor has, Alyssa Smith, obviously, of course. But you also got like other stars like Keelan Bickle and all their other stars. I mean, they're just loaded, But obviously, Alyssa Smith's gonna take all the credit because she's gonna get drafted to the W, but to Indiana most likely. So it sucks for her, but it is what it is. You got Oklahoma, you got Iowa State. Kansas could even slide in there. I mean, all these teams. I mean, unless you're like TCU, Texas Tech, maybe Oklahoma State, but all those teams maybe not. But the other teams possibly maybe not West Virginia, maybe. But you got 10 teams here, 10 big teams here. So we'll see though. In the Big East, you got UConn as still as the favorite, but Villanova pulled the big upset. And when I say huge, I mean they beat UConn 72-69 at home in Connecticut in Stores. Now that's huge. That is huge because Villanova. I mean, DePaul is probably going to get in the tournament. Villanova, if that UConn win, if they doesn't put Villanova in the tournament, I don't know what will. Marquette is like at the bubble of the NCAA's. Crane's on the, I believe, near the, like, if Crane's on the tournament, I mean, these Big East teams, if they're not like in the NCAA's, they're definitely like a high like 1 seed or something in the end. High like NIT bid. Definitely high NIT seed. But I think UConn shown some weaknesses, and they've definitely shown some weaknesses. So they play DePaul on Friday, or tomorrow. And you're seeing this is Friday, but I'm recording this late Thursday night. But DePaul, they have some. I believe DePaul could actually beat UConn, especially when UConn's upset. They've been upset, so. But coach probably, Gino probably just ratted them out, no end. So we'll see. I mean, but so we got the Big Sky here, and we got Idaho State at the top, and Southern Utah and Montana State. 3 teams with 3 losses. So I don't know. I mean, I think it could be those 3 teams. They're wide open for the championship. The 8 qualifier, the NCAA. I really haven't watched the Big Sky because it's on ESPN Plus, and I haven't had ESPN Plus so much. It's on ESPN 3 or the free or like TV networks, or like West Network or West Coast Guard Network for free in Stadia, or one's on YouTube for free. And I stream on the YouTube or like another site for free. So, I mean, Idaho State, maybe Southern Utah, maybe Montana State. Otherwise, I just don't see it, Maybe Montana, but maybe there could be an upset, but who knows? Because, I mean, they're all, like, vulnerable, so. And then we got in the Big South, so there's a lot of teams with a lot of good, decent teams, like NCNT, Gardner-Webb, High Point, Longwood, Campbell, South Carolina Upstate, Upstate. I mean, you could have like a top team, go down. I think the top 6 will have a shot, but I think the teams after that, I don't know. I mean, maybe High Point, maybe High Point, maybe Longwood. Like I said, all those top 6, maybe you could have NCNT with an upset win over Campbell, and boom, tournament just gets derailed. So, what I mean? When this race looks wide open, and those teams, top 6 spread them out, I think, seems to me like recipe for upsets, possibly, in the Big Ten. Now, this is another stacked conference where you got, like, a ton of teams, but the bottom feeders, are, your Rutgers, you got your Illinois, you got your Penn State, your Wisconsin, you got your bottom feeders, but I just don't know who's really, I mean, you can tell at the top who's the best, but it's tough because you got good teams. You got Indiana. I really don't think, Indiana is the favorite. But I feel like Michigan. I don't know. I don't think Iowa's gonna win because Iowa does not. I mean, well, Caitlin puts up like 40 points a game. They don't defend. Like, they're not a defensive team. I mean, and then, they play defense, but it's, like, not the best defense, because, Iowa scored, like, 90 points and should have won the game. Michigan scored, like, 99 and won the game. It's like, huh? Like, the Big Ten does not play, it's like usually you think of the Big 12 playing defense, they say, like, the football mantra, Big 12 doesn't play defense. Well, the Big Ten certainly didn't. It seemed like those 2 teams, the Big Ten, play defense. Because you can have like a 99-90 game in the Big Ten, or you can have like a 60-50 game in the Big Ten. Like, some of these games, it's like, huh? Where did that come from? So it's like, it's all basketball. You gotta take the games one at a time, Take the opponent one at a time, And, but, I think, any team could win here. It's in top 5. Like, Michigan could win. So could Iowa State, Maryland, Iowa. Top 5 could win. And maybe Michigan State with an upset. But honestly, if the top, you want the double bye. You want to be in the top 4 with the double bye. Because that double bye will really help you out. The thing you want, if you're Minnesota, Purdue, if you're Iowa and Michigan State, the single bye would be a little help, but you want to get in the top 6. If you can't get the top 4, you want to definitely get in the top 6, top 5 or 6. You definitely want to be 5th or 6th because you have to play one of the teams on day 1. You do. And 7-10 would play, and 8-9 would play. It'd be 2 teams that are fresh, completely fresh. So you don't want to play teams that are completely. Both teams have a bye. You and your opponent both had a bye. You want game 1. Where they had played day 1. So I don't know, but top 5 definitely could win and all. I think maybe Michigan State did upset Michigan State. So maybe Michigan State, but it's gonna be tough because they have to beat all top teams in a row. They'd have to beat even if they won the games, they have to play like the quarterfinals would be tough, the semis would be tough, and the championship would be tough. So they have to win 3 tough games in a row, and they're not built for it. But I feel like top 4 could win. Even Iowa could surprisingly win. I think. I don't really have because it's so stacked. Like all these teams. Like it's kind of a cop out, but it's so true though. Like you cannot predict the Big Ten Conference champion. At qualifier, you just can't. In the Big West, right now, as Long Beach State and UC Irvine, this is one of these conferences. Big West is where you have cancellations. You have no forfeits. They don't reschedule games, and they don't forfeit games. Like if for example, if Bakersfield, for example, if they had all of COVID cancellation games, and the team who had the COVID, who had to cancel because of COVID, they had a forfeit. If they had to cancel the game, they were the cause of the cancellation. They could forfeit and say, "Oh, you're losing the game," but they don't do that, which I think is fair. And I think if it's fair if you don't cancel the game, if you don't cancel the game, you have to forfeit or not. You don't. I think you shouldn't have to forfeit these games. And if it's because of COVID, now if it's because of if it's because of weather, and say it's at like a neutral site, and both teams agree to cancellation, sure. But for example, they had the game against Virginia and Louisville, and that got canceled or that got forfeited because Louisville, they're playing. They had delays on that because of weather, and then they're like, well, they could just drive down to Louisville and they could have, but so then Jeff Walsh got a little ticked off or something, and he just canceled the game. And he just said, make sure it's a forfeit. So, and then they're like, well, it's gonna be a forfeit. But I like the games where if it's COVID cancellations, definitely it should not be a forfeit because I feel that sucks if it's COVID, or you have enough players do COVID and injuries and stuff like that. That's stuff that's out of control. Injuries are under control. Now teams control and players control. So are forfeit and so are COVID cases. So definitely. And I would, and obviously the players would want these games rescheduled, but at the very least, they should be canceled. No forfeit by either team, at the very least. So, but this puts a wrench in these teams because some teams may have played each other twice in the regular season. And some teams you may not have even faced once in the regular season. Like CSU's Bakersfield, there's some teams that haven't even played CSU's Bakersfield yet. But yet, so. So it's like, or like Cal Poly, or even Hawaii. Hawaii hasn't played all their games yet. Like, I don't even think all these teams have played a complete conference schedule. Yep. So, but I feel like it's Long Beach State, UC, right? Maybe Hawaii. But it's like all these teams, like COVID, they have had COVID, or they played like with like 6-7 players, and their benches have been like really thin. That's what some of these games look like. Like, why some of these teams have like 5 losses or 4 losses in the conference. That's what it feels like to me. So I think it's gonna be like who has the healthiest team coming in there, and who's like played the most. Like Long Beach State UC might have played the most. So I think that's really gonna help them the most. Coming in there. In the Colonial Athletic. In the Colonial Athletic, I think it's gonna be Drexel or Delaware. Both these teams have lost a game. Both Drexel. I can't remember. When these teams played, they played each other, Drexel and Delaware. And one of them lost them, and then one had like a surprise upset loss. I believe that was Delaware. But I think it's just going to be Drexel and Delaware who can go in that game and win between them two. Also, I think Townsend or maybe even James Madison's one of those teams maybe could stun. I think Townsend would be more likely to be a stunner though. Townsend could probably stun someone, so we'll see. And things get really interesting in the conference championship game, but we'll see in that one. This is another one of those where they play winner of the conference, say the East. There's like the West for seeds and stuff like that. Now this could get interesting but I really think it's gonna come out of the East though, because the East is really stacked, and the East is like really stacked. So I think Charlotte, Western Kentucky, maybe even Old Dominion, Middle Tennessee, their regular seed records are really tough, and they're really good, and Charlotte's probably the weakest of the bunch, but their conference record's pretty good. I think the Western Kentucky, their conference record's a little lacking, but they're like Old Dominion, Middle Tennessee, those 4 are pretty good teams. So the Conference USA. So I don't know. I think the champion's gonna come out of the East, obviously. Obviously, it seems like that way. So, and then so if a lot of teams from the West moves, it's gonna be like they do the East-West split. So I think teams from the East are gonna have to play each other like a second, third time, which I can definitely see happening. So in the Horizon, I would say Youngstown State, but they did look vulnerable a couple of games. Like a few games in conference. I definitely, in the first games, in like first round and the quarterfinals, it's host and home site, so I think that'll help. That'll help some of these teams. But then coming into the semifinals and the finals, they meet in like low bubble. Neutral site for the final 3 games, semifinals and the finals. So I think it's gonna come down maybe the IUP and maybe Youngstown, but maybe there could be upset. Maybe Northern Kentucky, maybe Green Bay, maybe in Cleveland State. So we'll see. So, but who knows? In the Ivy, there's 8 teams, but I think it's gonna be either Princeton or Columbia. Top 4 are gonna make the tournament, and BA or Harvard will make the tournament. Penn will not make the tournament. Neither will Cornell or Brown or Dartmouth. So you already know the order of the teams in the tournament. But I believe Brown and Cornell, or Princeton, Columbia, are facing each other again, and I believe that second matchup is going to be on ESPN U. So, what we believe so. Second one we saw. I think Princeton Columbia would be will make it the championship. I think that's who's going between those two. Because I could see them spend the regular season series, but because it's gonna be tough if one team, if Princeton wins both, it's gonna be tough for Princeton to win 3 times in a row against Columbia, because that's tough, beat the same team 3 times in 1 year. But Princeton can do it though. We'll see though if they beat the second time though. In the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, Fairfield has 13-1. So there's 10 teams they played in count. There's 11 teams in the Metro Atlantic Conference. 10 you have to play against, and the only one that Fairfield's played against, lost to, I believe, was Siena. When Siena was on the hot streak, Siena was 0-1. Had no wins coming into conference play, and they ended up losing a couple games in conference. I believe they're 0-2. And then Siena just went on a hot streak, winning surprising teams, stunning teams, going this team, going this, winning. I believe they won 5, 6 in a row, all 6 in a row. And now they've been on a losing streak. So, but if Siena gets hot, again, watch out. Siena could just blow it everyone out. But I feel like it's Fairfield's conference, unless that happens. Unless someone gets on a really hot streak, I think it's Fairfield's to lose. That's really what it seems like. So, we'll see. In the Mid-American Conference, the MAC is, top 4. The bottom teams, there's a bunch in the middle. 7-4, 7-5, 6-5, 6-6, 5-5, 6-6. And there's a bunch of teams right in the middle of the pack. But the top 2 is Toledo and Buffalo, and I think they're going to stay. But the middle of the pack, Ball State, Akron, Bowling Green, Western Michigan, Ohio, Kansas State, Northern Illinois. That's going to be where that's interesting, the middle of the pack, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. 3rd through 9th is going to get where it gets interesting. Here, who's going to get that 3rd spot? Who's going to get that 9th spot? It's really close. There's some teams who are 7-5, but then there's one team who's a game behind. Then 8th, the 4th place team is in 7-5, but the 8th place team is 6-6. Makes, huh? So, I don't know. So we'll see. Because I feel like there could be a lot of upsets in the middle of the pack teams. And then Toledo and Buffalo, I feel could win out and beat each other in the championship. But I also feel some of the teams in the middle could just, it's going to be a dogfight in the middle of the pack. Which, might be a little tired then in the games, coming in, the fatigue. After playing back to back, so dogfights. So who knows? But we'll see how that one. In the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, I believe this is some teams have 7 games played. Some teams have 5. There's one with 8. So, but Norfolk State looks like the most complete team. However, neither team really has had a complete conference schedule. And that's kind of what's hurting these teams, none of these teams have had a complete conference schedule yet this year. So, and last year, if they had COVID cancellations, I don't believe they would just cancel the games outright, and they would play double headers back to back, 2 days in a row at the same teams stadium. So that's why they're trying to schedule games, and you'll see teams play Tuesdays or or Mondays or some days they don't normally play, just to squeeze games in. In Norfolk State, I mean, some of these teams might squeeze games in, like Norfolk State or Howard or Coppin State. I mean, some of these teams are like all over the place. Like, you could have someone like, I don't know, I feel like this, I mean, Norfolk State's the most complete, but I feel like neither of these teams are like really the most. I have played like full conference schedule, and that's what's kind of hurting them. I feel like it's just gonna be who can be on like the hot streak going in the tournament. Who can be the hot streak going in the tournament? Is it Norfolk? Is it Howard? Is it Coppin State? Is it Morgan? You know, who's hot going in the tournament? That's who's gonna win the tournament in a league like this, where neither team's had like a complete conference schedule. Or, what I thought going into the season, Missouri State would win the Missouri Valley, but that's not the case. After last season's Sweet 16 run, they've been derailed. I think it's right now. Maybe Missouri State could go to the conference championship, maybe win it, but I just don't know. I just don't see it. Maybe I think it's Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa has like the best shot. Maybe Illinois State. Maybe Southern Illinois. They play games that are because if they win a couple of those makeup games that they have to make up, if they make them up, I feel like some of these teams could. I mean, those top teams with 2 losses, and they stay that way. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough because Illinois State, UNI, Southern Illinois, those 3 teams on top could definitely win the conference tournament. In the Mountain West. Mountain West is 11-1. UNLV. New Mexico's. Yep, UNM 11-2. I don't know. Maybe Fresno could win. I don't know. I feel like some of these teams. It's gonna be a dogfight in the middle of the pack. Like I said before, in the MAC, it's gonna be a dogfight in the middle of the pack because, like the AAC is even gonna be a dogfight in the middle of the pack. Like there's a bunch of teams that are kind of similar records, and even though so kind of similar. Like I feel like this is gonna be a dogfight in the Mountain West. So we'll see. I mean, but I feel like it's UNLV, New Mexico is the favorite, and then whoever wins between the two is just going to win it all. That's what I feel like because in the middle of the pack is gonna be dogfight. Obviously, to see who gets like the 3rd spot or who gets like who has to play day 1 or because if you don't get a bye like the 2nd round to like the next set of game, if you don't get that single bye, that's kind of tough. Like Utah State, San Jose State, but you obviously if you want to get that 2nd round game and get the bye. I mean, yeah, you might not be UNLV in New Mexico. There's 11 teams here, so all 11 teams are going to play, so I mean, maybe it's 6 against 11, 7 against 10, 8 and 9. And then 4 plays 5. And then 3 will play like 6. And then 2 will play 7. And then 1 will play 8. So possibly, so. Yeah. And then there's these teams. In the Northeast is Fairleigh Dickinson. Now this is a conference in the Northeast where they had I believe some of these teams they might do I've seen postponement. Some of these games are postponed, but they were doing forfeits early in the year. and be COVID forfeits, and that kind of sucks. Having the forfeit game because of COVID. Like play for example, if Central Connecticut State they play a game against school, they had to play a game in Central Connecticut, and they say Mount St. Mary's can't forfeit it because of COVID. Central Connecticut State would pick up the win. They'd pick and they know they could beat Central Connecticut State. That kind of just sucks. So I feel like this conference is the most wide open ever. In the top 8, I believe, make the tournament for. Maybe I believe this is where the only top 8 make the tournament. Maybe all of them make the tournament, but then this is where home sites. They play home sites in the Northeast, so it's just like a regular season game, except it means more. Except you're moving on the winner goes home and is most likely done for it and their season is over, or you move on and have a chance one step closer to the NCAA's, or you may get into the NIT or the WCBI or some smaller tournament. But you want to go as far as you can. If your season is done, you play as long as you can, or get the NCAA's and have a chance at, even if you lose the first game, it was all worth it. Going to the NCAA's or even the WNIT or the WCBI. But this is the most wide open because of all the COVID forfeits. So some of the teams are 6-6 could be a little higher, or some of the teams are 8-5 could be a little higher. So this conference is kind of tough. Is really even out. So who knows? But FDU, I feel like got the most lucky having low games against teams that they know, Central Connecticut State. They didn't have to forfeit them, or maybe they got some forfeit wins, or tougher opponents. So maybe that helped them out too. So who knows? But Ohio Valley is one of those where they do so for example, there's 10 teams, and all 10 teams make it to a conference tournament. But for example, the 7 plays the 10, so it would be Tennessee Martin against Morehead State, and then Southern SIUE, so would take on Southeast Missouri State in the first round, and then the second round it would be the 6 Tennessee State would get the bye, and 5 would be Eastern Illinois, and then 5 would play 8-9 would play SIUE versus Southeast Missouri State, and then 6 would play 7-10, and then they play in the quarterfinal. Stampede and Murray State get the byes to quarters, get the double bye, and then they play the winners. And then 3 would play the 6, and 4 would play the 5 if there's no upsets. And then Belmont and Tennessee Tech get the byes to the triple bye to the semis. So it's kind of so you really want that triple bye. If you have to play the first game, good luck playing the first round, the second round, the quarter. Good luck playing 5 games and winning in 5 days and going to conference tournament. Good luck, championship, and winning it. Good luck. Maybe if you get that single bye, you still have to play 4 in 4 days. The double bye. The only really chance you have is maybe the double bye. But that's gonna be tough, So I feel like it's whoever gets the double bye is the most fair. That's Belmont, Tennessee Tech. But Austin Peay could definitely get the double bye because they're only a game behind. They're 9-3 and Tennessee Tech's 10-3. So maybe Murray State's 9-4. So it's really gonna be tough. Just really in Eastern Illinois is 8-5. So they get the double bye. So I feel like it's who's gonna get the double or triple bye. It's one of those teams could win. So it's gonna be it's just gonna be you're playing fatigued teams, and it really helps you be at the top. So get those byes. And the Pacific 12, the Pac 12. I don't know. I feel like the teams are at the top is Stanford. Stanford played a really tough non-conference schedule, and they've proven why they're really good. Oregon had a little slip up, in the non-conference, and they played. Now in conference, they've had a little slip up, but now they've been playing good basketball lately because all their players are healthy. So they're going on like a bit of a streak. But then some of these teams like Cal and Washington and Iowa and Arizona State, excuse me. Some of these teams have not played all 11 conference games. Like Washington State's played 11 games. So some of these teams have not. Obviously, a lot of these teams, USC and Washington State have played the most at 11. But some of these teams have played, like UCLA have only played 10 out of the 11. Like some of these teams have only played like a few conference games. Have not played a full slate. Because of COVID, like Arizona State did. So it's kind of like, huh? So some of them are like a little misleading, But I feel like can Arizona win? Can Oregon? I mean, Oregon could win, but I don't know. Oregon's like one of those teams where I feel like they're like kind of overhyped. I mean, Oregon's good, but sure, they're not like. I don't know. I don't feel like Oregon's gonna make it past the Sweet 16. If Oregon hosts, yeah, Oregon. They're talking about Oregon hosting, yeah. I mean, or if Oregon, even if Oregon doesn't host, I mean, yeah, sure, Oregon can make it the Sweet 16. But it's like, even then, no way. I don't see Oregon making past the Sweet 16. Sweet 16. And maybe, I think Stanford has the best shot to win. I feel like Stanford could easily win it out. Easily win all their conference games, and win the conference tournament because they're gonna get the best seed, and they're gonna. I feel like steamrolls word. Not steamrolls word, but I feel like they could go through conference undefeated, which I mean, it's not saying much in the Pac-12, so so. I mean, really, unless you beat Oregon and Arizona, I mean, I feel like Oregon and Arizona are gonna meet, and Stanford's gonna get the winner of those two. So they're going to get the more fatigue team. So that's really what I feel like it's going to boil down to. The championship. In the Patriot League. Now it's where home sites. You played home sites. And Holy Cross and Bucknell are the favorites here. Lehigh, I feel like Lehigh could make it. Wait, it's not Holy Cross and Boston University, excuse me. Not Bucknell, I don't know what I was thinking of. Holy Cross, Boston University are favorites. Yeah, an American and Bucknell. You're on the verge of getting there. Again, like top host in the top 4 on the verge of that. So it's tough, It's tough. I feel like it's going to be either Holy Cross University, but maybe someone like Lehigh or American could upset one of those two. And I could just kind of like steamroll. So, But I feel like these home sites really going to help you out because you got the home fans at home and you're playing on your home court and you have to travel for the game. And that's really going to just hurt these teams don't have to travel at all. It helps them out. They're not as tired. Fatigue from traveling. That kind of wears on you though. So the opposing team. So we'll see in that. But I feel like it's Holy Cross or Boston University, but they're not unbeatable though. They've proven though they're not unbeatable. So it's gonna be. I feel like an upset or two could happen, and then and then boom, you're out. Boom, you're done. And you don't make it to the NCAA. In the Southeastern Conference. Now, this is a really tough conference. Like, there's a bunch of good teams here. They're in their records, like, don't prove it. Like, their conference records, like, I don't know if it was seen, like, Tennessee, like, South Carolina. South Carolina is the overall favorite. Like, they're golden to win a championship. Like, or I think they could even win not even just the SEC championship, but I feel like the overall championship, like they are that good. Maybe Tennessee could win it all, But I don't know. Tennessee's had some flaws in there, so Florida's playing really well. I like Florida, like Carrie Finley at Florida. She's been doing a phenomenal job. I don't know why Florida hasn't got hired her for the head coach, but you can see it. They're tripping if they haven't, because Carrie Finley's like amazing coach, and they're really reflected in getting a top 25. She didn't even go to a top 20 in those 20s. They should jump to 19. Like, that's like crazy. Win over Georgia. That was huge over, Georgia's squad. Like, and Georgia lost to LSU today. And LSU got a huge win over Georgia, which, especially with Georgia's talent, they got Q Morris and Jenna Stady. They got really good talent in those two. And their coach is like pretty good. Obviously, because they're just like tough physical teams. At least that part, like Tennessee's really good. You got Ray Burrell. You got Brooklyn Miles. You just got Tamari Key. You got all these top talent in these leagues. Florida, I feel like you don't hear much about their talent, like their players. You just hear about their coach being really good, and that's like I say, have these undervalued talent, just rise to the occasion, and that's definitely what Florida is doing. LSU, LSU is really good. I mean, maybe you could say like for coach of the year goes to LSU's coach. That's like once you knew she's moving from Baylor to LSU. You definitely knew LSU was gonna have a good year, and they're definitely having an amazing year, better than Baylor is doing right now in conference and the regular season. So props to them. But they also got some transfers. You got some that transfer from Baylor to LSU. They're like, hey, there's some that will be like, well, I don't care who the coach is. I'm just gonna, like Melissa Smith. She didn't care that Baylor, she didn't care that coach left her. She just like, I'm gonna stick it out. Especially since I'm gonna probably be drafted in the WNBA. And I know Nikki Collin. She'll help me there on the path to get drafted. She's a former She was a former WNBA head coach for the, so she'll help me get drafted. And some of these players that bought in from her, like all these transfers are newcomers that bought in, but there's definitely some who've been transferred to him from Baylor to LSU, which is not a surprise when your old coach leaves to go to new school. Some head coach leaves to go to new school. Some will definitely transfer to that school. And we're helped out. It's working though. Mississippi. Ole Miss. Ole Miss is Mississippi. And, we're ahead of Georgia, which is just kind of stunner. But Georgia's still really good, even though despite their losses, they've been just, they just got that bad end today. They were down like 20 at one point, then they climbed back up to like 16 and a half. They only lost by like 5 or I think like the single digits, so for being down 20 in the first quarter and then playing a tough LSU team, lose by by single digits, that's pretty good. I think it was like 5 or 6 too, so props. Arkansas is really good, you had Chelsea Dungy there like a year ago. She's out of there, and they're still playing really solid poops. They're still playing really solid ball. Amber Ramirez and all that being leader, and despite that, she's been taking over as the main role. As like the main, I mean, she's still the leader, but Chelsea Dungy's been like the main player on there. And now Amber Ramirez taking over the main player in the leader. And, she's really showing it there. And she can be, so. And that's going to be really tough in the Southeastern Conference to decide because Tennessee could win it all, but so could Florida, so could LSU. I mean, maybe not Georgia, but you never know. Some of these teams could upset each other. Like South Carolina could get upset in the conference. Well, the conference, like the tournament, the championship, or the, or the semis or something, so it's just tough. In the Southeastern Conference, there's 8 teams, and you play each other twice, and who's the favorite right now? Mercer's only had 1 loss, but that's probably to Wofford. They probably split their series. Furman had 2 losses. I mean, you got, but I feel like Mercer-Wofford, it could be a Mercer-Wofford showing, but it could also be a Mercer-Furman showing, because I feel like Wofford-Furman are really close in each other and they could upset. But I feel like, I don't know, the other teams, I don't know, I don't feel like Western Carolina is obviously going to do nothing. They haven't won that game in conference. ETSU, UNCG, Greensboro, probably not. I mean, it's 8-1 against 8-2-7, 3-6. And maybe 4-5, maybe Chattanooga could beat Tennessee. Chattanooga could beat Stanford, but I feel like top 4 is pretty stable to win the first game. The second game, Furman, maybe Furman, maybe Wofford, Furman. That could be an upset, maybe in the semis. But other than that, I just don't see any upset. Maybe a championship upset. Maybe Mercer, Mercer versus Wofford or Furman. Maybe 2 upsets, but but I think it's just going to be whoever wins Mercer Wofford play. I feel like they could, either team could beat each other. Maybe Mercer could lose to Furman, maybe, but I think Mercer's got this in the bag. But who knows? You never know, though. Who knows? In South Lake, you got 8 teams again, and 1 against 8, obviously, still. And I feel like the favorite, Southeastern Louisiana, but you could play Texas A&M Commerce. Their only loss is to Southeastern Louisiana. So, I mean, that shows you that Southeastern Louisiana is good. But, it's going to be hard to beat a team like twice in the regular season. So, once in the regular season, once in the conference tournament. So, who knows, Maybe Southern Indiana could lose an upset game in the conference tournament, team that they already played once, like Texas A&M Commerce. But I feel like most likely though, Southeastern Indiana is pretty safe though to win the conference championship or the NCAA's. Now in the SWAC, Southeastern Athletic Conference, there's 6 teams in each side, so there's 11 teams you have to play. There's total about 11 you have to play, and after playing all 11 conference games, Jacksonville State has played all 11 and won them all. And there's some teams that haven't even played them all, like Alcorn has had 2 postponements to FAMU, the Florida A&M, FAMU, and BCU, Bethune-Cookman. Those are 2 postponements. They haven't made up yet, so they have to make up a couple of those games. But unlike maybe like a Wednesday or something, but other than that, but still, if it's like the best seed in the West takes on like the number 1 in the West takes on like the number less in the East, and so on and so forth, or maybe it's like, who knows, but Jackson State, I feel like, is the favorite, because they beat everyone, and most likely, if they're going to play, obviously, some teams twice in the regular, probably there are teams in the East twice again, so most likely it's going to be Jackson State just steamrolling again through conference, but, and then probably steamrolling through the tournament, because all their other teams, even though they're 8-3, 7-4, 6-5, but I could see some teams like, maybe I could see some upsets between 7-4s and 6-5s. I could definitely see that, and maybe the 2-8s and 2-9s and 1-8s if they play each other, depending on how the conference tournament thing falls. I could definitely see some upsets in like the teams are like neck and neck with each other. I can definitely see that. So yeah. And then in the Summit League, I definitely see South Dakota and South Dakota State playing each other in the championship. The South Dakota beat South Dakota State in the first game. The second game, South Dakota State lost. They lost to each other. So I believe they played twice and won. So I mean, I just feel like South Dakota State, it's gonna be those two in the championship game, and then the winner moves on the NCAA's. Like the loser goes to the NITs, unless it's if South Dakota State loses loses to South Dakota, then South Dakota State I believe will go to the NIT. South Dakota State will go to the NIT. South Dakota, if they lose to South Dakota State in the conference tournament game, I believe South Dakota could go as an at-large, but I don't think South Dakota State could go as an at-large in the NCAA's. South Dakota State have to win the conference tournament to go to the NCAA's, I believe. But South Dakota could go as an at-large. South Dakota State, and most likely I think, but then Kansas City. I believe Kansas City would go to the postseason. They'd probably go as like an WNIT team. Same probably with North Dakota. So, and then in the Sun Belt those conferences where they're not making up games. They're basically if a team had to cancel because of injuries, injuries and COVID-related things, then the game would be just canceled and not forfeited or postponed. And obviously, because there was a bunch when the Omicron variant was and spread around, everyone was spreading around Omicron when it was getting, when it was getting pretty bad, and it was reaching its peaks in every state. Omicron was, and it was just getting everyone, and all these teams are going down, and that's why you see a lot of these postponement games. They're not as prevalent now as they were then, but you can definitely see some days like Tuesdays in the end, like women's basketball, where you don't see there's like you'd see probably hardly any games are scheduled for Tuesday, and now you got like a whole bunch, and you got like 10 or so. So I could definitely see but I could definitely see it being wide open because there could be teams that maybe have only played once in the regular season. Maybe a regular season matchup, say with that team got canceled because of COVID. Or, you maybe played a team twice, but you didn't play that team once in the regular season. So, it could just definitely, like, steamroll. It could definitely be interesting. Playing a team you haven't even played at all during the regular season in the conference tournament. Which definitely could be interesting. Could definitely be interesting. And I feel, because of that, I feel like this is so wide open. Because of that fact. West Coast Conference. I feel like BYU is the favorite because they beat Gonzaga at their home turf floor. But BYU lost to Portland in a surprise stunner on the road in Portland. They lost. Portland, Oregon. They lost. But they also. But then in the second half, Gonzaga, they were slipping. They were down by 50, and then Jeff Judkins just got at him. And they didn't, and they definitely showed out in the second half. Like they ended up holding Gonzaga like 40 some points, so they even ended up winning. Or 40s or 50s or something like that, and then they ended up like winning, I believe. I know they ended up winning, but I can't remember. But they ended what their final scores, but they held them pretty good in the second half, which was pretty remarkable, But then in the West Coast, it's one of those teams where like the bottom teams play each other. Like there's 10 teams, and like 7 plays 10, Pepperdine plays Pacific, San Diego to play LMU, and then the 6 would be 6, 5, and 6 would be San Francisco and Santa Clara. They'd play like 5 would play 7 or would play 8, 6 would play 7, then 3 would play 6. Portland and St. Mary's would get the double bye to the quarters. Like Portland take on the 5. 3, if there's no upsets, 3 would play 6 and 4 would play 5. And then BYU would be the 1. They take on the 4, St. Mary's, and they take on 2 would take on the 3. But I feel like it's going to be BYU and Gonzaga again. And now BYU played Gonzaga on the whole. BYU hasn't played Gonzaga yet in Pro Bowl. So I feel like that game could be a lot different. But it could also be close, but it could also be like a lot different. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. And then those two teams facing in the West Coast Conference, they'd have to play in like championship game. That's the only way they could play a third time. So it's gonna be interesting. It's definitely gonna be interesting. And then in the Western Athletic Conference, right now, Stephen F. Austin is 11-0, 20-3, which is really good to be a 20-3 mark. And then they haven't even lost the conference game yet. And then there's a bunch of teams like they're like 5-6, 6-6, 7-5. So it's definitely going to be one of those conferences where you could definitely see like Lamar beating or Utah Valley beating Lamar, or Sam Houston beating Lamar, or Rio Grande Valley losing to Tarleton State. I could definitely see a bunch of these these matchups, like they're really close in conference. I could definitely see the upsets. But I definitely see Stephen F. Austin winning it and going to the NCAA if they win it outright. If they don't win the conference outright, then they go to the NITs, obviously. But I could definitely see Grand Canyon, California Baptist win the NCAAs, or the NIT, Grand Canyon, California Baptist. Those two teams could go to the NIT. Maybe even Abilene Christian goes to WNIT or WCBI, one of those two bids. So I could definitely see that as well. But I definitely think it's Stephen F. Austin's losing the conference. So we'll see. But yeah. So we still got a month until March 1st is when the start of the first conference tournament games are going to start. And then the 5th is the last day of regular season games for every conference that hasn't played their conference tournaments yet. Actually, there's one game on the 6th, I believe, which is a Big 12 game, but other than that, it's all regular. It's all conference tournament games from the first onward for a lot of conferences, and then there's some that play regular season games for a little bit, and then and then there's some that start regular conference games in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and then play midweek championship games. Most, which obviously they're midweek or odd time championship games 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 2 p.m. And that's obviously for to be on ESPNU or be on CBS Sports Network or something like that, if they can be, So yeah, that's an hour long, hour format. There's my prediction of all conference championships for the NCAAs, and I'll let you know as we get to March 1st what my thoughts are on them. But I don't think much of it's going to change, honestly. But I'll still say anyways, because something drastic could change, So